Hello, everyone. Father Norm again, here sharing with you this very day. Our parish, St. Vincent de Paul in Akron, has a feast day coming up. Actually, our patron saint, St. Vincent de Paul, lived 450 years ago in France, and this Saturday, September 27th, is actually the day that he's remembered throughout the Universal Church. He was known through these centuries as the apostle of charity because in France at that time when he lived, there was a lot of poverty. And with all that going on, the churches weren't responding that well. I mean, they were places of worship, they were places of people coming together in fellowship, but they weren't actively reaching out to many people who are hungry and hurting and lonely around them. And St. Vincent's de Paul, that bothered him. And he said, we need to do more. We know we're called to worship God. We're called to come together in community. We're called to try to live moral lives. And part of that moral life that he brought up was, how do we show concern for the poor around us? Because after all, it was Jesus who often spoke about the issue of poverty and responding. And one of the ones that people most remember is from Matthew 25, when he said, when I was hungry, did you give me to eat? When I was thirsty, did you give me to drink? When I was naked, did you clothe me? When I was in prison, did you visit me? Whatever you did for the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me. Jesus over and over identified with the vulnerable, with the lonely, with the sick, with those who had very little to live on, with people who neglected or even slighted them or looked down upon them because of what they wore. And so we know that our own parish, called St. Vincent de Paul, formed in 1837. The name was chosen at that time for our parish, St. Vincent de Paul, again, emphasizing the importance of worship, and worship that leads to active engagement with doing for the poor, letting them know that, hey, especially as any followers of Jesus, and for that matter, any follower of somebody of goodwill, would first notice the poor. That was one of the things Jesus pointed out, that, and even when St. Vincent de Paul, and back in 450 years ago, pointed out, we're not even noticing the poor. We're going by them. And so the importance of being able to do that and then actively respond. One time, Mother Teresa said, Jesus is found in the disguise of the poor. He's there. That's who we're called to do something for. Our own parish tries to do a number of outreach, and I want to reflect on something here now about a variety of ways that we can reach out to people who are hurting in any way. So I put some of this information down. I'm going to read part of it because we certainly know one way for the poor, give to Catholic Charities, give directly to somebody we see hurting. That's all good. But the other thing that St. Vincent de Paul did, he started a group, an organization at the time he was there, that reached out not just individually, but brought a whole group of people together saying, what can we do for the whole community? And basically, it became what in recent centuries, the St. Vincent de Paul Society. We have one, many parishes have it, a whole group of people to try to together focus more than what one can do on that outreach to the people who are hurting or in poverty. Here, I want to read some other practical recommendations that can be given to parishes and individuals for what we do, in addition to giving in certain collections or reaching out with Catholic Charities or some other group like that. A few of these are this: that all of us, in our own way, service to the poor and the marginalized. There can be direct aid, volunteer at food pantries, soup kitchens, homeless shelters, clothing drives. We have a lot of that in the Akron area. Here, important too, and I've been able to experience this in many, personal presence with people. So often, just spending some time with people that we may notice, particularly people who are lonely or elderly or marginalized in some way. I know I've reached out and others have reached out, and even in our neighborhood, and people have said, "Oh, thank you so much." Just the fact that you took the time to say hello, to get to know my name, to realize that your parish and people in it care about me and care about us, lifts me up so much. Then also we can be about advocacy. You know, in our country today, there's a lot of needs, even more than recently, about promoting outreach to people who are poor, fair wages, health care, housing, all of that. We can look at those issues and how can we be supportive in terms of our own attitudes, that we too need to learn to live more simply ourselves, live with less, avoiding waste and consumerism, and in doing that, be able to help more those who have less. In terms of how we see every person, treat every encounter with dignity and patience. This is what Saint Vincent de Paul did, and he organized groups of lay people to do the same, especially when we see they're being ignored. That we need to carry a spirit of compassion into our family, our work, our social life, where other people are, that we can respond. So one of the important things for us is, we said, do we need to pray for the poor? Yes. And St. Vincent de Paul said, well, pray for the poor, but pray in such a way that it converts us to want to take active steps for the poor. That obviously the prayer alone isn't enough. Prayer needs to change us to live more the way Jesus calls us to live. And so for all of us, we can look at kind of practical ways that we can respond. And as we go into this day for him, this coming Saturday, be mindful. What is the Lord calling each of us, maybe with the people right around us, to notice, to care, to give a little more love?